Hello, dear students. Let us see what do you mean by derivation of a string from a given CFG. After understanding what are the conventions in CFG, what does NTPS mean in the previous video, let us now see what do you mean by derivation of a string from a given CFG. Now, listen, what we are trying to understand is what is the use of this CFG. Okay, now just go back by one chapter to DFA. Now, clearly, the diagram that I have drawn here is a DFA which contains two states, Q0 and Q1, Q0 being the initial state and Q1 being the accepting state. And there can be a dead state, also dead state, from where the DFA will not return to accepting state at all. Now, what do you say about this DFA? If you are asked what does this DFA do, you say that this DFA accepts, isn't it? Accepts or generates or derives. Any of these words you use, look at this word derives, generates, accepts or derives the language. The language L. L can be described over here as all the strings of the form A star, B, A star. I mean, I'm not going in the details because it is clearly visible that all the strings which have 0 or more A's, look at this loop for A, followed by a compulsory B. So A star B and then followed by 0 or more A's, look at this loop for A. But then after that A star, after this loop, if there is a B, then the string should be rejected. So this is what DFA does. You input a string and DFA either accepts the string or rejects it, or rather generates a string, we can say. And all such strings accepted by a DFA forms the language. Same thing, literally the same thing is done by CFG. What you do is, given a CFG, here is a CFG given, you give it a string. Of course, the string should be made of A or B, because clearly sigma over here, the alphabet set is A and B. Notice the terminal set in this particular CFG is A comma B. Non-terminal is simply capital S, isn't it? So the strings can contain only A and B. Let's try to derive a string. Understand what do you mean by derivation. Derive a string triple A followed by triple B. This is the string. Okay. So how does the derivation start? Remember, derivation always starts from the start symbol. So when you start your derivation, you should begin with the given start symbol, and the start symbol is S. Now, in the given CFG, there are two options given for S. What CFG says, if you have S on the left hand side, you can either replace that S with the right hand side ASB, or you can replace that S with epsilon. But if we replace this S with epsilon, then the derivation will end here because epsilon doesn't derive anything. We want triple A followed by triple B. So we will use our first production. The first production was S derives. That's the way you read. The arrow is read as derives. S derives A S B. This is the beginning. But then you notice we want triple A followed by triple B. Now, don't you see that in this given right hand side, we already have A and last B derived. Observe this very carefully, isn't it? First A and last B is derived. But then we want two A's and two B's. This one, this can be derived from S. And that's what we exactly have over here, ASB. Now the next step in the derivation, this S is now replaced with ASB again. So which production we have used out of the two productions given is S derives ASB. Now you notice the string that we are till now having is double A, double A, S double B. That means we have derived two A's in the front and two B's at the end. But then still we want one more A and B because we want triple A and triple B. No problem. This S in the middle, this S can still derive A as B, isn't it? So now we have triple A, S, triple B. Again, we have used the same production. S derives A as B. Finally, we have got three A's and we have got three B's. Now we should stop the derivation. We can use our second production. S derives epsilon. This is the production utilized. And epsilon, as you know, is null string or empty. Then finally, we can say that this is same as triple A followed by triple B, and we say desired string is derived. So we can generalize this, or we can just repeat this derivation. S derives A as B was the first production. We wanted triple A and triple B, correct? So we got first A and last B. Somehow this double A double B must be now derived from S. That's A S B that we are having on the right hand side. But then this S can be again replaced with A S B given in the grammar. A S B, I'm so sorry. A S B. This A S B and this B was already there. Now we have in triple A triple B, we have derived two A's and two B's. Isn't it so? You notice these two A's and two B's are derived, but somehow this AB should be derived, and this should be derived from S that we are having over here. So S can be again replaced with ASB given in the grammar, and the two B's over here are still there. Now we have got three A's and three B's. Now this S can be replaced with S derives epsilon. That was one more production. So we can terminate this derivation by putting S as epsilon, but this is same as triple A triple B. Let's try again. Given the grammar S given ASB, I'm just rewriting it over here. S derives epsilon, and we are asked to derive a string S derives AB. Let's say, let's say. Then what will be the derivation? S derives ASB. So we have got first A and last B, but now nothing pending. So this S can be replaced with epsilon. This production can be now used. S derives epsilon, which is same as AB. So how will you derive? How will you derive a string epsilon? Can this be derived? Yes, of course, because you know derivation always starts from start symbol S, and you have two options for the start symbol. You can directly derive epsilon from start symbol, and listen, epsilon itself is a string which doesn't derive anything. So epsilon can be derived from this grammar. By the way, which type of strings can be derived? I hope you have now got enough point about it. The smallest string that can be derived is epsilon, then AB. There should be one A followed by one B, then this S can be replaced with epsilon, isn't it? Or we can have double A double B, triple A triple B, and all sorts of such strings. We then write this language. This is a language generated by the grammar. We can write this language generated by G. G is the grammar as A raised to n, B raised to n, which means equal number of A's and B's, but all A's in front and then B at the tail. Most importantly, this such that notation is written in our set. So all the words are of the form A raised to n, B raised to n, such that n is greater than or equal to 0. Now, equal to 0 should be taken very seriously. That means in our language, the smallest string is A raised to 0, B raised to 0. By A raised to 0, we mean that we are not taking A at all. By B raised to 0, we mean we are not taking B at all. That means this is epsilon. Or we can have A raised to 1, B raised to 1. By A raised to 1, we mean we are taking A once. And we are also taking B raised to 1 means we are taking B once. So we'll get AB. Or A square B square means we are exactly taking two A's and two B's, and any such strings are accepted by this particular grammar or generated by this grammar. But given the same grammar, I will just rewrite the grammar again. Given the same grammar, suppose you are asked to derive let's say you are asked to derive a string double A B, let's say. Can you derive this string from the given grammar? Answer is no. It's just like, if you give this DFA, this DFA, a string which doesn't fit this rule, then DFA will reject this. I hope you are understanding, isn't it? It will reject if it doesn't suit or fit this particular rule. Similarly, if you give double A followed by B, which doesn't obey this grammar, doesn't obey the rules of this grammar, then this string will be rejected. Let's see how. We will start with S. We don't want null string immediately, isn't it? So we will use A as B. Okay, good. That means we have got first A and last B, which we needed. Look at this, first A and last B. But now this S, which is a variable, should somehow derive this middle A. Only one A pending, you see here, only one A pending. But strange, or rather, the truth is that we do not have any production in the grammar, we do not have any production such that S can give only A. Well, you can replace this S with keeping this A and B intact as they are. You can replace this S with A as B because that's the only production given, isn't it? You do not have S replacing or S getting replaced with single A. That means you are knocked out. You cannot now derive this single A and you are locked at this step. You can say that double A followed by B cannot be derived. For instance, if you are given the same grammar, I am sticking to the same thing, and if you are asked, can you derive this string? Let's say the string is A double B. Again, you can't, because you can start with S derives A as B. Of course, you got first A and last B. Look at this, first A and last B. But somehow, this middle S, which is a variable, should give you this middle B. But the problem is S cannot derive single B. If it derives anything, it derives ASB. So you can only replace this S with ASB, isn't it? But this is not what you need. You need only B. You don't need an A, isn't it? So you're locked over here, and you can say that this string cannot be derived using this grammar. Have a look at one more grammar. Let's see one more grammar. What if you are given some arbitrary grammar like this? S derives, let's say bracket S bracket, S derives open bracket close bracket S, and S derives epsilon. Now what this grammar is all about, this grammar derives all the strings which have balanced parenthesis. So it will derive the strings which have balanced parenthesis. This string will be derived. Okay, you see this string which has balanced parenthesis will be derived. Interesting string is this one. Watch this. This string can be derived from this particular grammar. This is a string. All these strings which have balanced parenthesis can be derived from the grammar because that's what the grammar is about. But such strings, you see, this is a very funny parenthesized expression. You can see that this is clearly not balanced parenthesis, isn't it? Such strings should be rejected, or this string should be rejected. What do you say? This string, it has two open brackets but only one closed bracket, so this is not balanced. So what if you are asked to derive, let's say you are asked to derive, okay, I'll take empty slate. Here we go. Given this grammar, give me some time. Okay, given this grammar, S derives bracket S bracket, S derives open bracket close bracket S, and S derives epsilon. And what if you are asked to derive this string? This is the string you are asked to derive. Obviously, your derivations will start with S because S is the start symbol, and you have three options. You can replace this S with anything because it clearly says you can take S as this, or you can take S as this, or you can take S as this. You are free. That's the word. Context free grammar. First of all, you are free to replace S with any of the rules given which are pertaining to S. But listen, we want to open bracket and close bracket, right? So what we will do is we'll use this first production. This first production is used bracket, open, bracket, close, and S. Nice thing is that we have got this open bracket and close bracket now. Now somehow, this middle portion should be derived from this S. And we can use the same production, open bracket, close bracket, and separated by S. The same production has been used again over here. Note, we have got two open brackets and two close brackets which were needed. But then enough, we have got this string now, isn't it? Now the last production can be used, that is S derives epsilon, and we can stop the derivation. And epsilon means anyway empty string. So this means we have got our string. Now, what if you are asked to derive such a string using this grammar? Just check, I am rewriting the grammar. So let's say you are asked to derive a string. Let's say this. This is the string. This is also balanced, isn't it? So first production you can use is bracket S bracket. The very first production that you have used. You have got open bracket and you have got close bracket now. Now what? Yes, you might have guessed it right. Now you want this pair of open brackets and close brackets, right? So you can use this second production. What you can say is now I will replace this S, keeping this open bracket and close bracket as they are, and I will replace this S with bracket open, bracket close, and S. Look at this right hand side over here. We have used this. Nice. We have got this particular open bracket and close bracket. Check this portion. We have got this. But then now we want second pair of open and close bracket, isn't it? This one. So what? We can use the same production again. We can say this S can be now replaced with open bracket, close bracket S, and all other things over here remain as they are. Finally, we have got our balanced parenthesis expression, and this S can be finally replaced with epsilon. So now we will have S replaced with nothing, that is epsilon, and we have our final string. I hope you are understanding what you mean by deriving a string using a given grammar. More examples like this on grammar and how to read grammar, how to derive a given string from a grammar will be understood in next videos. Thank you very much.